Good evening, all of you. Am I audible and visible? Please give me a thumbs up. Welcome, Sophia. Welcome, Shashank, Shrishta. Welcome to my class, Anshul. So, am I audible and visible? Okay. So, for those who are attending my class for the first time, again, a little bit of my introduction. I am Dr. Cheshta Agarwal, your dermatology educator on Unacademy. And I've myself have scored a good rank, that is 261 in NEET PG. So I'll tell you all the tips and tricks, especially related to your dermatology aspect. Okay. So as you know that we are going through a series of flashcards which I have completed with the basics as well as the appendageal disorders with respect to the hairs. Now today and I think day after tomorrow or tomorrow I'll take a class on the appendageal disorder along with today. So today we will mainly discuss about the glands, that is the sweat glands as well as the sebaceous glands and their related part. Okay, the related dermatological diseases, the important question related points. So I hope all of you are enjoying my classes. Please give me a thumbs up, and if you have any doubt, please ask. Okay, so you have any doubts related to previous three classes, please let me know. Anything which you are not able to understand. Okay, so I have started a Telegram group. This is the link of the Telegram group. So if you have any doubts related to my classes which have already been occurred, or if you want me to teach any particular topic or anything which you do not understand, you can anytime message me on this group. I am also attaching the link over the chat section. So I have pinned it also. So if you have any doubt, you can just let me know. Okay. So STD, yes, Vandan, I will take a flashcard series on STD also. Don't worry. I am taking total 15 classes and all the classes are free for all of you. But these are just the free classes, that is just the brief classes. If you want a detailed course, please subscribe to Unacademy. Use my referral code, that is Cheshta10. I will also discuss important point here also, but those classes will be more in detail. Okay. So I hope all of you are clear with this. Now, before going ahead, I want all of you to please enjoy all this. Now, you must be wondering why I'm showing you samosas and chocolates. Anybody? So, see, nowadays everything is happening online. Like we are taking your online classes, you are buying stuff online, you are selling everything online. So today, as you know that today is my birthday, so I am giving you treat online. So please enjoy my treat online. I'm very sorry because I'm not giving you a proper treat and I'm just showing you like this. So today is my birthday, so please enjoy the dish and then we'll start. So yes, Shrishta, definitely I will give you party, and this party will also include your, NEET PG results also. So I want all of you to please, I wish all of you to concentrate, to study hard, so that everybody get through this PG exam and will join my college or any good colleges in future. Okay. So I think I should start. Many students have already joined, and thank you all of you, those who have wished me. Thanks a lot. So we will start with the today's session, and the session is on the appendageal disorder, that is the sweat glands. So my face is very bright. So you want me to, reduce the lights, or is it okay, Vandan? This is because I think this is because of the light. And previously, the students used to say that your face, that the light is not proper. So I've, focused lights on me. So maybe because of that, you are seeing a lot of. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So thank you all of you. So we should not waste much time and we should start studying. I think many students have already started. So Shrai, it will be out soon. Don't worry. You will, as you are a plus subscriber, you will get to know about the course soon. It takes few time, to just go through the publication thing and all. So I will definitely let you know by today or by tomorrow. Okay. So about the sweat glands, let's start. So welcome Donald, Gayatri and Nazia. Welcome to my class. Now, starting with my first flashcard. What are sweat glands and how many types of sweat glands are present? So as this picture shows, we have two type of sweat glands. First is the eccrine gland and another is apocrine gland. Now, before discussing them in detail, I want to tell you something about the gland secretion. Okay, so please have a look over this picture. Now we have total three type of gland secretion. First is the holocrine. The second is the apocrine, and the third is the merocrine. Now, can anybody tell me what are these gland secretion type? So this is the way a gland secretes the substance into the duct, and they are divided to three types depending upon how they secrete the substance into the duct. Now the first is the holocrine gland. Now what do you mean by holocrine gland is that now in the process of secretion of the substance, whole of the cell is getting secreted into the duct. I hope you all understand what I'm trying to say. Please give me a thumbs up if you understood. So suppose this is a gland wall. So this is the wall of the gland and these are the secretions. So in the secretion, if the whole of the cell is getting secreted, then it is called as the holocrine gland. The next is the apocrine. What do you mean by apocrine? When only the apical part, that is only this part, gets pinched off and they are secreted into the duct. So this is called as the apocrine. And the last is the merocrine. Now what is merocrine? It means that there is nothing happening to the cell itself. It just secretes the content into the duct. So I hope all of you understood the difference between the holocrine, in which the whole cell is getting secreted. In apocrine, only the apical part, and in merocrine, only the duct secretion. Shashank, I'll tell you each and everything. So these are three type of cells depending upon their secretion. Now, I want all of you to please answer one example of holocrine gland. Anybody? Can anybody tell me which gland, especially related to dermatology, which gland is a holocrine gland? Any one of you? Sai, you want to try which gland is a holocrine gland? I can give you an option here. So option number A is eccrine sweat gland. Option number 2 is apocrine sweat gland. Option number 3 is sebaceous gland. So can anybody tell me the holocrine gland, which is the example here? So the example is the sebaceous glands. Okay. So sebaceous, yes, Gayatri, you are absolutely right. Sebaceous gland is an example of holocrine secretion. Now next is the apocrine secretion. So as the name suggests, the example is the apocrine type of sweat gland. Okay. And the last is the merocrine. The example is eccrine type of sweat gland. I hope you understood. Sai, now it is clear to you the difference between the three and the example of each of them. I want all the students to give me a thumbs up if they understood. And if you have any doubt, I can explain this to you again. So we have three type of glands depending upon their secretion. Okay. Now going back to the previous slide. Now first, that is the eccrine gland. It is a type of sweat glands, and here the secretion is merocrine. And what do you mean by merocrine? That is the cell is intact. There is only the secretion of content into the duct. So I hope this is clear. This is very important. And you had a question in your DNB as well as your FMGA exam. So a very important that it is a merocrine secretion. The next is the apocrine gland. It is an apocrine secretion, that is there is pinching off of the apical part of the cell. So this is the first difference between the eccrine as well as apocrine gland. So welcome Preeti, Wasavi, Gray, Aishwarya, Vishnupriya. Come fast. This is my first slide. So we are just starting. Please come fast. So the first difference between the two type of the sweat glands is their type of secretion. Now the second is the site. Now this is again a very important exam question. Now, eccrine glands are present all over the body. That is, entire body consists of the eccrine gland, except, so we have few areas where we do not have eccrine glands. So in question, they will ask you this, that what all areas do not have sweat glands. So what is the answer? The answer is mucosa. The next is lips. And the next is clitoris. So these are very important points. You should know about this. These are the points, or these are the areas where we do not have eccrine type of sweat glands. That is the mucosa, the lips, as well as clitoris. I hope it is clear. And one more thing is external auditory canal. Okay, so we do not have eccrine sweat glands over the external auditory canal, over the lips, over the clitoris, as well as the mucosal surfaces. Very important point. Now about the site, in case of the apocrine gland, it is mainly present over the flexural areas, that is the axilla, around the areola, as well as in the groin. So this is again an important question, that is the site varies among the eccrine sweat glands as well as apocrine sweat glands. If you all are clear with this, please give me a thumbs up. It is a crowded flashcard, so if you have any confusions, I will explain you, don't worry. Okay, so we are clear with two difference between the eccrine as well as apocrine gland. Now, the next is the maximum concentration of the eccrine glands are present over the palms as well as soles. Okay, now I have written here the maximum concentration. Can anybody tell me where do you have minimum number of or least number of sweat glands in the body? So there, can you name any one place in the body where you have least number of sweat glands other than these parts? Any one of you? So maximum in palms and sole and least at the, so Shrishta, on lips, clitoris as well as mucosal surfaces we have no eccrine glands. Right now I am asking you a place where you have minimum number of sweat glands. It means that you have sweat glands, but the area per centimeter square, the number of glands are very less. So any one of you want to answer this? So the answer is over the back. That is, over the back part of the body we have minimum number of the sweat glands. I hope this is clear to all of you. So this is the minimum over the back and maximum over the palms and soles. This is very, very important. Now along with this, I want to know you one more thing, that when in embryologically in exam they ask you which is the site where the sweat glands develop first, whether it is over the body, over the palm soles, over the back, where it grows or where it develops first. Can anybody tell me at which site the eccrine glands develop first in the embryological age? So yes, Shai, you are absolutely right. It is seen over the palm and the soles. Okay, so this is very important. The first site where it is developed in the embryological period, the answer is palm and sole. So these all are exam questions. So I want all of you to please make a note about these points. You cannot take chance to miss it. Okay, so where it is maximum palm and sole and where it is developed first, again the answer is the palm and sole. Okay. Okay, now next point is the atrial. Now what is this atrial means? Here I have written atrial and here I have written epitracheal. Can you appreciate that? Now atrial and epitracheal, this is the word given where where these glands have their ducts coming out. So please have a look over this picture. This is the eccrine sweat gland. So this is the eccrine sweat gland. Okay, so can you see the duct of the eccrine sweat gland is directly opening into the skin surface, while this is the apocrine sweat gland, and the opening of the apocrine sweat gland is going and opening into the, this is what, this is the hair follicle. So the atrial means the gland is opening directly into the skin. A means absent and tracheal means hair. So there is absence of the opening in the hair, while epitracheal means around or surrounding the hair. So the opening of the apocrine gland is in the hair follicle. I hope all of you understood. So this is the eccrine sweat gland, this is the apocrine sweat gland, and can you see this grape-like structure? This is the sebaceous gland. Okay, so I will tell you about sebaceous gland in my later few slides, but for now you need to know what you mean by the atrial as well as the epitracheal. So here, see, yes, Kajam, the opening of the apocrine gland, it usually opens above the sebaceous gland opening. But a very important point, you should note that this site is not fixed. It can open at the level of sebaceous gland and even below the level of sebaceous gland. But most of the time, the opening is above. So I hope it is clear to you now. Okay. So very, very important points. So the third point was the atrial as well as the epitracheal nature of eccrine as well as apocrine gland. The next is the nerve supply. Again, a very important question for all of you. Now, both of these glands have sympathetic nerve supply. This is very important. The second important point is, in case of eccrine sweat glands, we have cholinergic sympathetic supply, while in case of apocrine gland we have adrenergic sympathetic supply. So this is a very important point, that the post-ganglionic nerve fibers in case of sweat gland have acetylcholine as a neuroreceptor, while in case of this apocrine gland we have adrenaline as the post-sympathetic, as a post-ganglionic neurotransmitter. So this is a very important point, and I want all of you to again mark it down, because this can be asked in the exam, what is different in the nerve supply of the sweat glands. Now the next is about the function. So what is the function? The function of the eccrine sweat gland is thermoregulation. That is, it maintains the body's temperature. So when we have higher body temperature, it will increase the sweating. And while we sweat, there is cooling of the body. And in case of lower body temperature, it reduces the sweating and hence retain the temperature of the body. So I hope you understood how the eccrine gland works. When the temperature increases, there is more and more sweating so that the body can get cool itself. Now, the next question which can be asked here is the center of the eccrine gland or the sweat gland function. The center is the preoptic area of the hypothalamus. So this is again an important exam question. That is, the anterior hypothalamus or the preoptic area of the hypothalamus is the center for the sweat gland function. Okay. The next, coming to the apocrine. The function of apocrine gland is the olfactory function. That is, in case of smell. So this olfactory communication is mainly used by the animals, not by the humans. So in the olfactory communication, the main role is of the apocrine gland. So if all of you are clear with this flashcard, please give me a thumbs up. All the 50 students, those who are listening. And yes, Shrishta, the apocrine gland is responsible for the body odor. I will tell you each and everything about both these glands. Don't worry. For now, you just need to know about this difference. I want all the students to please give me a thumbs up. Okay. Now going to the next slide. Now, before going to the next slide, I want to tell you something about the eccrine gland itself. So this is the skin surface. We know that we have stratum corneum. This is the stratum basale, that is the rete ridges. And this is the full thickness of epidermis, and below the epidermis we have dermis. This everything is taught by me in my first class. Okay, now we have an apocrine. I'm talking about the eccrine gland right now. Eccrine gland have a ductal part, and the one which is present in the epidermis is called as intraepidermal ductal part. The intraepidermal ductal part is spiral. So can you see this number of convolution which is present in the intraepidermal part? So this is the intraepidermal part of the duct, and this is the below one is the dermal part, and this is now in the end we have the gland. Okay, so did you understand? So this whole is the duct and this is the glandular part. Okay, now I will tell you in my next few slides, there is a defect of, or there is an obstruction of the eccrine gland duct, which is called as miliaria. Now, why miliaria is more common in case of eccrine duct blockage as compared to apocrine duct blockage? This is because of this convoluted portion. As we have discussed that here there is lot of convexity or spiral arrangement, so this part easily gets blocked. And when it gets blocked, it will cause retention of the sweat glands and hence will subsequently lead to miliaria formation. So I hope I'm clear to you with this part. Please give me a thumbs up if you understood. I will explain this to you in my next few slides also. Okay. Now, this was the one part. Now discussing about the cells. In the glandular part, we have 3 types of cells. While in the ductal part, we have 2 types of the cell. Okay, now what are the cells which are seen in case of the gland? These are, D stands for the dark cell. We have M, that is the myoepithelial cells, and we have C, that is the clear cell. You don't have to know this in detail, but they can give you an exam the name, so it is very important. That is the dark cell, the myoepithelial cells, as well as the clear cell. So the main cells which is responsible for synthesis of the sweat secretion is the clear cell. So this is a very important part. The clear cell is responsible for secretion of the glandular material. The next is the myoepithelial cell. What is the function? The contraction of the myoepithelial cell will cause the flow of the sweat glands from the gland up to the duct. And the third is the dark cell. The function is unknown, but this forms the luminal surface of the gland. I hope I am clear to all of you with this 3 type of the cell. Okay, so you have any doubts, please let me know. The next is the ductal cell or the ductal area. Here we have 2 cells. This can be labeled as the luminal cells as well as the marginal cells. Okay, so this can be asked. This is the one question which can be asked from this slide. Now, another important question which can be asked from this slide is about the duct secretion. Now, can anybody tell me what type of secretions do you see in case of sweat glands? Whether it is hypo, whether it is hyper, or whether it is isotonic. Can anybody tell me whether it is hypotonic, it is hypertonic, or isotonic? So Shrishta and BK are already with the answer. So answer here is the hypertonic. And why there is hypertonic secretion? Now what happens in the gland? The secretions are isotonic. So this is important. You will be reading everything in your physiology classes, but this is very important for you that in the gland the secretions are isotonic, but when it reaches to the duct it becomes. So what is the answer here? So what happens? It becomes the hypertonic. This is because of the absorption of the sodium chloride. Okay, it is hypotonic. The solution become hypotonic, and this is because of the absorption of the sodium chloride. And when in case of cystic fibrosis there is defect in the sodium chloride channels, hence in these cases there will be defect in the sweat secretion. So I hope all of you are clear with this. Please give me a thumbs up if you are clear with this. Please give me a thumbs up if you are clear with this. Okay, so this is a very important slide, and you can get 3 to 4 questions from this. Okay, so this is little bit about the eccrine sweat glands. Now little bit about the apocrine sweat glands are. Okay, so before coming to this question, I want to tell you a little bit about the apocrine sweat glands. Now about the apocrine sweat glands, as I have told you that eccrine sweat glands, they are present since birth. So here a very important thing which I've already told you, that eccrine sweat glands are present since birth, while the apocrine sweat glands, they are present at the time of puberty. Now here it is a very important thing which I'm going to tell you about, that in the question you will get a question that whether the hormones have some role in the production or development of the gland secretion. Now I want you everyone to please answer, in case of apocrine gland, whether there is any role of the hormones either in production of the secretion or in the development of the secretion. So Mickey, can you explain what is the role here? Can you explain the role of the hormone in case of the apocrine gland? So I will tell you about the role of the hormone is, the hormone helps in development of the sweat gland. But once the glands are developed, now there is no role of hormone. I hope you understood what I am trying to say. So for example, a boy is of 18 years. So till this year, that is up to the puberty, or up to 16 to 18 years, at the time of puberty, you have fully developed apocrine gland. So for this development, you need hormone. But after that, that is after the complete development of apocrine gland, for the apocrine gland secretion, you do not need any hormone. I hope you all understood. So if we remove the testes in case of an adult boy, suppose if I tell you that if I remove the testes of an adult boy at the age of 25 years, so will it affect the secretion of apocrine gland? Any one of you? If I remove the testes, yes. So Gayatri, you are absolutely right. It will not affect the secretion, because the hormone is only required for the development of the gland. So if the similar question is asked that if I remove the testes of a 10-year-old boy, will he be able to secrete the gland of the apocrine? So no, the answer will be here there is a role of the apocrine gland. So I hope all of you understood with this important point. This is a very important point for your exam. So now I want you to answer this question so that you will understood that what exactly I am trying to say. So this is a PGI question, so more than one option can be right. So I want all of you to please answer this question over the chat section. Please answer the question over the chat section. All are the false except. So you have to mark the correct answers, okay? Sweat glands are most numerous over the back and least over the sole. Palm and sole sweat glands are last to appear. Sweat ducts produce isotonic sweat. Hypothalamic preoptic nucleus has key role on the sweat glands. Gonadectomy of adult impairs the apocrine sweat glands, and apocrine glands are under cholinergic control. So I think most of you absolutely understood what I am trying to say. Only few got confused between option number 5 and 6. So Ramya, Kevin, Ilakai, and those who, all of you who have marked option number 5th, they have specially mentioned that gonadectomy in the adult. So I have told you that in the adult, if we do or if we remove the gonadectomy or if we remove the gonads, there will be no impairment on the apocrine sweat glands because the glands have already developed and we need the hormones only for the development. Did you all understood? Those who have marked option number 5, the correct answer will be option number 4 only. Rest all are false statement. So if you have any confusions, please ask. Okay, this is a very important point. Please don't get confused in this. I want all these 60 students to mark, to give me a thumbs up so that, I'll be sure that you all are getting, okay. Okay. So the answer here is option number 4, because the option number 1, that is the sweat gland, are most numerous over the back. No, they are most numerous over the palm and sole, as they are least over the back. The palm and sole sweat glands are last. No, they are first to appear. The sweat gland produces isotonic sweat. No, it produces hypotonic. The hypothalamic preoptic, yes, it is the key role. Now, apocrine glands are under the cholinergic control. So no, this is not right. So please have a look over this picture. I've told you that it is under the adrenergic sympathetic control. It is not under the cholinergic control. So I hope you understood. Okay. 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 So I think I'm clear with this question and the previously what I've taught. I think this question have cleared everything. Okay. Okay, now discussing about the defect of the sweat glands. Now these are very, very important points because you will get the questions from the defect of the sweat glands only. Okay, so this is a very important flashcard. It consists of total of 5 to 6 defects. Now starting first with hyperhidrosis. Can anybody tell me what is hyperhidrosis? What does it mean? What is hyperhidrosis? Any one of you? Yes, so hyperhidrosis is increase in the sweat gland secretion. So when there is increased sweat, I'm very sorry with this pen type, it's not working. So whenever there is defect or increase in the sweat secretion, then it is called as hyperhidrosis. It can be of two types, that is localized, that is only over a particular area, or it can be generalized, that is over the whole body. The next is malaria. What is malaria? Can anybody tell me what is malaria? So malaria is, any one of you? Yes, so that is because of the obstruction or the blockage. So that is obstruction or the blockage of the duct of the sweat gland. I will teach you in detail in my next slide, but for now you need to know about the malaria, that is the obstruction of the duct. Okay, yes. So yes, Anshul, this is called as the heat rash. Okay, so this is very important. It is called as the heat rash, or it is also called as prickly heat, or in Hindi it is called as gamoria. Okay, so these are very important words and terminologies, and it has different terminologies in different part of the country. At my area, it is called as gamoria in Hindi, or the prickly heat. Okay, now, so I will explain this to you in detail, but before going to that, I want to tell you about little bit about these three things. Now, a very important thing is hydrocystoma. Now, what is hydrocystoma? Can you have a look over this picture? So this is a cyst. Now, in hydrocystoma, there is malformed sweat gland as well as the sweat gland duct. So here, because of the malformation, there is a retention of the sweat and leading to this type of cyst formation. And usually it is present around the eyes, and it can be confused with the stye or sometimes with this type of chalazion. Usually it is asymptomatic, and it do not consist of any pain or any itching. So this can be removed surgically. And yes, it is a misnomer because oma is usually used for tumor, but this is not a tumor. This is just an malformation which leads to obstruction of the duct and hence collection of the sweat material. Okay, so only this much is required. You can get this picture as an image based question in your exam, so you don't have to read anything else. The treatment is removal of this, that is excision of this cyst. Okay, so I hope I'm clear to all of you. The next is this syringomas. Now, what is syringomas? This is the sweat duct tumors. Now, can you appreciate this small skin colored papules which is present around the eye? So this is a very common sight, and these are small, painless, asymptomatic skin colored papules which is present around the eyes. Okay, so this is called as syringomas or the sweat duct tumors. They are completely asymptomatic. The treatment which is used here is usually cauterization. We can remove it with cautery. We can give topical tretinoin or keratolytic agents for the treatment. Okay, so this is because of the sweat duct tumor. And yes, they are intraepidermal and a little bit of superficial dermal component also. Okay, so these are completely painless or benign condition, that is syringoma and the eyes. Okay, now next is NEH. Can anybody expand or can anybody tell me what is the full form of NEH? Very important. Can anybody tell me? So NEH stands for neutrophilic eccrine hidradenitis. Okay, yes, so this is neutrophilic eccrine hidradenitis. It is a neutrophilic dermatosis. So I will teach you in when I will teach you the neutrophilic dermatosis in the skin. But here you need to know, because in neutrophilic eccrine hidradenitis, secondary to some malignancy, for example, leukemias or lymphomas, that is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, acute myeloid leukemias, you have accumulation of the lymphoid cells as well as neutrophils in the sweat glands and sweat ducts. This will lead to deformity, or this will lead to degeneration of the duct and hence leading to this type of erythematous lesions. So they are mainly seen over the palm and sole, and this is characteristic of neutrophilic eccrine hidradenitis, and it is of three types. The first is secondary to malignancy, second is secondary to infection, which is seen in case of infants or in children. I will teach you each and everything when I'll teach you about the neutrophilic dermatosis. But here it is important because it includes the eccrine glands. So I hope it is clear. You can get this in your exam as an image based question. So this is very important for you. I hope you all understood what I'm trying to say. Please give me a thumbs up. Okay, so very important slide. You should know about the clinical picture of what is shown in the slide. Okay, now discussing about the malaria. This is a very important slide because this is frequently asked questions from this. Okay, so what is malaria? It occurs because of either the obstruction or obliteration or the destruction or disruption of the eccrine sweat glands duct. Now, why this happens? Because I've told you in my first two slides that the intraepithelial or intraepidermal portion of the eccrine duct is highly coiled, and when it is coiled, it easily get blocked. Okay, so that is why we mainly get the malaria, and this is also called as eccrine malaria. Okay, this is also called as eccrine malaria. Can anybody tell me what is apocrine malaria? Any one of you? What is apocrine malaria? Annapurna, Gayatri, you want to try? Yes. So Vijay, Harinath, Vasavi, Annapurna, you all are right. This is called as hidradenitis suppurativa. No, this is not HS. This is Fox-Fordyce disease. Annapurna, this is not hidradenitis suppurativa. This is Fox-Fordyce disease. Okay, so this is Fox-Fordyce disease, that is apocrine malaria. I will tell you when I will discuss about the apocrine dysfunctions. Okay, so Annapurna, I hope you got it right now. Okay, so that is not hidradenitis suppurativa, it is the Fox Fordyce disease. I will tell you in my next 2 to 3 slides. Okay, for now, about the malaria, I've told you that it has the intraepidermal portion. Now, depending upon the blockage, that at what level we have blockage, we have classified malaria into 3 types. And what are these types? These are malaria crystallina, malaria rubra, and malaria profunda. Now, I will tell you with the help of a diagram. So I will show you in a different slide. This is also very important because you can get this in the question. So this is the epidermal portion, this is the rete ridges, and this is the convoluted part which I was about to. Okay, so can anybody tell me what is the topmost layer which is seen in case of epidermis? Which is the topmost layer? Yes, it is the stratum corneum. Just below the stratum corneum, what do we have? We have stratum granulosum. Okay, below stratum granulosum, what we have? We have polygonal cell layer. And which is this called as? What is the polygonal? Yes, it is stratum spinosum. And the last layer, what is this? This is the stratum basale. Okay, so this is this I have told you each and everything. Now, if the blockage occurs at the level of, say, at this level, that is at the level of stratum corneum, then it is called as malaria crystallina. Okay, so if in the exam they ask you at which level there is a block in case of malaria crystallina, so at the level of stratum corneum. Am I clear to you? Very, very important. Now, stratum corneum is also called as horny cell layer. So they can use any terminology in the exam. Okay, they are also called as horny cell layer. So malaria crystallina is at the level of the stratum corneum. Now the next is the malaria rubra. Now malaria rubra is at the level of stratum spinosum. Okay, but in few of the books they have given you stratum malpighian. Now what is stratum malpighian? I'm very sorry, my pen tab, I don't know why it is not working. Now in few books it is written that stratum malpighian is the area where you have the malaria rubra. Okay, and yes, the stratum malpighi means stratum spinosum along with stratum basale. Okay, so stratum spinosum along with stratum basale is stratum malpighian. So if in the exam they ask you that at what site we see the stratum, at which level we have the block in case of malaria rubra, so it is at the level of stratum spinosum or stratum malpighian. So Shrishta, do you have any confusion? Please let me know, or if you understood, give me a thumbs up. All of you, if you understood that malaria crystallina is at the level of stratum corneum, while the malaria rubra is at the level of the stratum spinosum. The next is the malaria profunda. Okay, and malaria profunda is at the dermoepidermal junction. Okay, so this is very important. So yes, malaria rubra is also called as prickly heat. Okay, so I hope this was the thing which you are asking me. Okay, so this is also called as prickly heat, Shrishta. So this is very clear to you. So malaria crystallina at the horny cell layer, rubra at the stratum spinosum or the malpighian layer, and the profunda is at the level of dermoepidermal junction. And prickly heat is another name which is given to malaria rubra itself. Now, can you tell me what do you mean by profunda? Because this is important. In dermatology, you will get profunda word so many times. Lupus profundus, okay? And this is also used, yes, profundus means deep, okay? So I've told you that there are few terminologies. If you get to know about these terminologies, it will be very easy for you to crack your dermatology aspect. Like I've told you about the vulgaris, like I've told you about the profunda, okay? So this is very important. Profunda means deep. So you can easily remember that the profunda is at the lower level, crystallina is the topmost level, and at the middle level you have R, that is the rubra. And in few books I've seen that they have used a mnemonic that is CRP, that is the C reactive protein. So you can use this mnemonic also. They have many books, many mnemonic, but it is Yes, you can also remember is that SRP or CRP is better, that is C reactive protein is also used as a mnemonic. I hope it is clear to all of you. Okay, so this we have discussed about the level in case of Malaria crystallina, Malaria rubra, as well as Malaria profunda. Now showing you about the pictures. Now the first one here, it is the example of Malaria crystallina. Now why it is called as Malaria crystallina? This is because you tend to see clear or crystal like small droplets or vesicles. So can you appreciate in this picture small clear droplet, and hence it is called as Malaria crystallina, mainly seen in case of small infants where you have tight clothing. The next is, this is called as Malaria rubra or prickly heat, where you have erythematous red papules, and this is because of when there is excess accumulation of the sweat, there is activation of secondary inflammatory mediators, and when there is secondary inflammatory mediators which get activated, the patient will start developing this type of red colored feature. Now, Malaria crystallina, as I've told you, they are completely white or clear and they are completely asymptomatic. While in case of Malaria rubra, patient will give you a history of itching as well as burning. This is because now we have inflammatory mediators which have taken over the site. I hope you understood. Give me a thumbs up if you understood. Okay, so this is asymptomatic, but while in case of Malaria rubra, you have itching which is associated. This is because of secondary inflammatory activation. The third one is Malaria profunda. Now, in case of Malaria profunda, you tend to see this type of skin colored, again asymptomatic, deep seated papules or deep seated nodules. So this is very important. Okay, so here you do not see any rubrous component, you just have deep. Okay, so Divya, in newborns, usually we tend to see the crystallina part, but there is you can also appreciate this type. If they ask, if they've given both of them in the questions, then you have to mark Malaria crystallina as more common. But nowadays, they have seen you that in general, in infant, Malaria rubra is more common as compared to the other two parts. Okay, so if they have not mentioned anything about the age, then you have to mark Malaria rubra. But if they have given especially the infant or the newborns, then you have to mark about the Malaria crystallina. I hope I'm clear to all of you. Okay, so these are few important things about the malaria part. Going to the next slide. Now, I want all of you to please answer this question. I think this is very easy now. I'm starting the poll. I want all the 60 students to answer this question because now it is very easy. The crystalline malaria is due to, yes, so Arun, Annapurna, Varun, Preeti, Nazia, Akash, all of you are absolutely right. And those who have marked it wrong, please don't worry. Go back, just have a look over the recorded session today. You will get to know that why the answer is sweat glands. We have not yet started the sebaceous gland. Can anybody tell me what are the sebaceous gland? What are the disease which we get if you have sebaceous gland blockade? Any one of you? Yes, the first is acne. Anything else? Any other name you want to tell other than acne? Okay, so hidradenitis is not a sebaceous gland. I will tell you in some time. Yes, Fordyce spot is also right. Other than that, so we have acne and we have rosacea. Okay, and the other part which all of these students which are saying, that is the Fordyce spot, the Tyson's gland, that I will tell you each and everything. Okay, don't worry about this. But for now, you need to know that acne and rosacea are the most common dermatological diseases which occur secondary to the sweat gland involvement. Okay, so the answer here will be option number 2. Going to the next question. Can you answer this? This is just a revision and a very easy one line. This was the last year NEET PG question. The eccrine glands are absent in which place? Palm, soles, mucosa, or the upper trunk? So yes, the correct answer is mucosa. It is absent in case of mucosa. So I think most of you have already answered it. Akash, Rahul, Kevin, Yashwant, Manoj, you all are absolutely right. So am I clear to all of you with the eccrine sweat glands and its related defects? If yes, please everybody give me a thumbs up. Okay. Okay, so I request all of you to please subscribe to Unacademy. Please use my referral code, that is Cheshta10. Okay, so this is just a brief class. I will take in detail class in my plus courses also. If you like my class, please subscribe to Unacademy. And a very important notice I want to tell you all of the students that the prep ladder, which was one of the online medical coaching website, has been undertaken or has been overtaken by the Unacademy today itself. So now the prep ladder is owned by the Unacademy only. So this is a very good news to all of us that we have increased our family, and we have now prep ladder also included with us. Okay, so now starting with the disorders of the apocrine gland. That I don't know, Divya. I think it will take some time to tell you about the question bank access and all. Okay. So Annapurna, that issue actually I am not. I have no idea whether you can access directly or not. Or yes, Arun, on Unacademy we will be doing the full courses for December 2020 exam, and we have started and we are about to start the course this month itself. So I request you to please subscribe to Unacademy, and trust me, there is nothing other than Unacademy. It covers each and everything. So please do subscribe to Unacademy. Use my referral code, that is Cheshta10, for additional 10% discount. And I tell you that on Unacademy we personalize the course for each and every students. Okay, if you enroll to Unacademy, they will see that you are preparing for 6 months. They'll make a proper class schedule for you. So it is very important. And this type of per student thing is not there in other online platforms. So Arun, we have already started with the NEET PG 2020. I think it was started 5 days back. So you can anytime enroll it. You can see the classes which have already been taken. I think only 3 to 4 classes have already been taken in that. So please subscribe. Even today you can subscribe for 6 months and get the discount. Use my code, that is Cheshta10. Okay, so not discussing much, come back. I should discuss my topic, that is the disorders of apocrine gland. Now before discussing about the disorder, so Jay Kumar have asked me a question that Fordyce spot is related to apocrine. Okay, I'll tell you each and everything. Don't worry. I think this slide will, remove all your confusion. Now, what are the disorders of apocrine gland? Now, apocrine gland, as I've told you that in my first slide, the main use is the olfactory communication. Okay, so olfactory communication, it occurs because the secretion of apocrine gland has some odor. So the secretion usually consists of odor. Now, this odor can be very severe, that is the false odor. Now, when this odor becomes false or very pungent, then it is labeled as bromhidrosis. That is the bad odor which occur in some individuals. This is called as the bromhidrosis. Now, what is the reason for conversion of the normal odor into the bad odor? This is because of the axillary bacterial growth. Can you tell me which is the bacteria which is a normal commensal of the human axilla? Any one of you? Which is the normal commensal of the human axilla? Yes. So, okay. So, Propionobacterium. Before Propionobacterium, can anybody, Divya and Akash, Cutibacterium? No. You want to, I think you had made the spelling mistake. It is the Corynebacterium. So this is a very important exam question. The normal commensal of the human axilla is the Corynebacterium species. And can you name, I want at least two names which occurs, two diseases which occur secondary to Corynebacteria. Any one of you? Yes, Divya, you're absolutely right. Corynebacteria minutissimum or minuticis. Now, what is the disease? Yes, it is erythrasma and Trichomycosis axillaris. I will tell you each and everything, don't worry. So the normal commensal is Corynebacteria of the human axilla. Okay. Now, when this bacteria, it acts on the apocrine gland secretion, it converts it to the bad odor. The next is the steroid production. Now, sometimes what happens in the presence of the bacteria, there is stimulation of the steroid hormones, and hence there is production of few steroids which lead to the bad odor. So from bromhidrosis, you will get two questions. That is, what is the cause of the bad odor in case of the apocrine gland. So this is because of secondary bacterial growth and secondary to the steroid production. Now there is one more terminology which is called as eccrine bromhidrosis. Did you ever heard about it? Eccrine bromhidrosis. Did you ever heard about it? Any one of you? So I have told you that the eccrine secretions are completely odorless, but in few conditions you tend to have odor in your eccrine secretions also. Now, in which condition it occurs? It occurs usually to secondary to the intake of garlic. Okay, so this can be asked in the questions that secondary to garlic, asafoetida, and these are few of the drugs. Okay, and few of the metabolic disorders like phenylketonurias. So in these conditions, even the eccrine glands can cause false odor or offensive odor. Okay, so this is important for you. So if in PGI you get a question that there is a terminology eccrine bromhidrosis, then you have to mark it right. Okay, so this is very important. You need to know about this. Okay, so I hope you all understood. Please give me a thumbs up. All of you, all the 70 students. Okay, okay. Now, so this was the first disease, that is the bromhidrosis. Now I have written something which is called as chromhidrosis. Now what is chromhidrosis? That is secretion of the colored sweat. And why there is color? And the color is because of the lipofuscin granules. Okay, so this is very important. Only you need to know about this thing, that chromhidrosis means secretion of colored sweat, and this is because of the lipofuscin granules. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. Yes, Annapurna, you are right. It is because of the lipofuscin granules. So this was the second disorder of the apocrine gland. First was bromhidrosis. Now next is something called as Fox Fordyce disease. Now what is Fox Fordyce disease? Please have a look over this picture. The Fox Fordyce disease is also called as apocrine malaria, which I have already discussed. Now here you have this type of hyperpigmented to skin colored follicular prominences mainly seen over the flexural aspect. Okay, so what are these sites? That is over the axilla, over the groin, and over the areola. Okay, so these are the important site, that is the areola, axilla as well as groin, and it is mainly seen in case of young or reproductive females. Okay, so in case of young females. Now what happen in these females? They will complain, or they will come to you with the complaint of severe itching over the axilla. When you examine the axilla, you will see something like this. So this is very classical of Fox Fordyce disease. And here, because of the obstruction of the apocrine gland duct, there is development of this type of itchy raised papular lesion. So if I am clear to all of you, please give me a thumbs up. What is Fox Fordyce disease? And it present mainly in the young reproductive females associated with itching. The common site is areola, axilla, and groin. And the clinical presentation is the pinpoint or the follicular prominences. Now, most of the time, the Fox Fordyce disease is given along with something called as the Fordyce spot. Now, Fordyce spot is this. Fordyce spot is completely different from the Fox Fordyce disease. So, Akash, can you appreciate this picture? So, Fox Fordyce disease or Fox Fordyce disease is this, while the Fordyce spot, these are ectopic sebaceous glands, and these are mainly present over the upper lip, that is the pinpoint skin colored asymptomatic papules. They are completely asymptomatic, present over the upper lip. They can also be present over the penile shaft. And can you tell me, if it is present over the penile shaft, what is the name given to it? Any one of you? The Fordyce, yes. So it is called as Tyson's gland. They are nothing but similar to the Fordyce spot, the ectopic sebaceous gland over the penile shaft. So I hope those who are having confusion between the Fordyce spot and the Fox Fordyce disease is now clear. Okay, so very important, they will give you in exam. It is very frequently seen in the options, that is the Fordyce spot, the Fox Fordyce disease. Both of them are from the different glands. Fordyce spot is the sebaceous, while the Fox Fordyce disease is the apocrine gland. So we are done with this part. Now coming to this lower left part. Now what is this hidradenitis suppurativa? Now hidradenitis suppurativa, it is apocrine gland disorder. So apocrine gland disorder, this is classified by presence of painful nodular lesion. Yes, Arun, it is also called as inverse acne. I will tell you a little bit more about the hidradenitis suppurativa. So Annapurna have asked me that any reason for occurrence. So I think you are asking this for Annapurna for the Fordyce spot or for the Fox Fordyce disease. Can you please mention this? The why there is Fox Fordyce. So this is all depend upon the hereditary. So Fordyce spot, it is just the genetic factor. Why it is happened to some individual, why it is not seen in other individual, nothing is clear. Just because in embryological period you can have development of there is development of the sebaceous gland at the different site. Okay, so something like hematomas. You know what is hematomas? That is formation of a normal cell at a different site. So these are the normal hematomas, can occur to anybody. Okay, so I hope I am clear to the Annapurna's doubt. Okay, now discussing little bit about the hidradenitis suppurativa. Please look at this slide. Divya, just wait. I'll tell you your doubt also. Just wait. I'll explain to you about the HS first. Now, hidradenitis suppurativa, you need to know that it mainly occurs over the axilla, over the groin, or over the perineum. That is perianal as well as perineal areas. Okay. So these are the common site first. Now, second is cause. What is the cause for hidradenitis? So there are many theories which is given. So there is a genetic theory which says that because of the defect in the hair follicle, or because of the defect in the duct of the apocrine gland, there is formation of HS. So because of the malformation of the apocrine gland or the pilosebaceous gland. So either the apocrine gland malformation or the pilosebaceous gland malformation. I hope this is clear to you. There is one theory which says that there is increased bacterial proliferation. And why there is increased bacterial proliferation? This is because of abnormal sebaceous gland secretion. Abnormal sebaceous secretions. Okay, I hope you all are getting what I'm trying to explain. So this I'm talking about the HS, that is hidradenitis suppurativa. The site is axilla, groin and perineum, and the cause is genetic or increased bacterial proliferation, and this is because of abnormal sebaceous secretion. And the third is the positive family history, so that also I think comes in the genetics. So these are some of the theories. Another theory is hormones. So they have seen that the HS is mainly seen in the individual which have polycystic ovarian disease. Okay, so this association with polycystic ovarian disease or with inflammatory bowel disease, it is known that it may be because of secondary to the hormones. So these are some of the hypotheses. Now the third point which can be asked is the clinical feature. The classical clinical feature is, here you have deep seated, that is subcutaneous nodules, which then form abscesses. This abscesses then will rupture to form sinuses, and then there will be healing with the fibrosis. So this is a classical sequence which will be followed, that the subcutaneous nodule, then abscess, then sinuses, and the fibrosis. Now why there is a classical point is, there is presence of the polymorphous comedone. Now what do you mean by polymorphous comedones? That is presence of variable sizes of comedone. So are you all with me? Are you able to understand, or it is very boring for you? I will tell you each and everything, Shrishta. After fibrosis, there will be scarring. Okay, so this is very important. So I hope you all are able to understand about the HS. Okay, so what is there? There is polymorphous comedones. What is comedones? Whenever there is obstruction at the opening of the hair follicle, that is the pilosebaceous gland. So there is polymorphous comedones, there is subcutaneous nodules, abscess, sinuses, fibrosis, and scarring. Now, the HS or hidradenitis suppurativa is sometimes called as inverse acne. Now, why it is called as inverse acne? This is because, as I have told you, that it occurs because of the obstruction of the pilosebaceous gland, and acne is also because of the obstruction of the pilosebaceous gland. So it was sometimes called as inverse acne, but it is a misnomer, because here it is not the sebaceous gland, but it is the apocrine gland which is affected. So I think I'm clear to all of you. Please give me a thumbs up if you understood. And about the treatment part, we have to give antibiotics here, because here the there is increase in the bacterial proliferation. So we can give antibiotics like minocycline, rifampicin, doxycycline. We can give patient the retinoids, that is isotretinoin, because here we have obstruction of the pilosebaceous gland also. Okay, and in few conditions we can even give steroids also as a treatment, and this is to reduce this nodulation, chances of scar formation. So this is little bit about hidradenitis suppurativa. Till now we have not got much questions from HS, but this is a very important topic. You can get the questions in your upcoming exam. So I think this is clear to you. Okay, so this is the clinical picture. Here you can see about the this is the sinuses, the scarring which is seen in the axilla. So in pregnancy, the drug of choice. Okay, so Divya, in case of pregnant females, in case of hidradenitis suppurativa, we do not give retinoids because this is contraindicated. We first treat the patient with either the antibiotics, which is also suitable in the pregnancy. We can give patient a small dose of steroid also, and we can start the patient on some topical treatments like the topical retinoids or topical antibiotics. Okay, so I hope I am clear to you. So now discussing about the other students' doubt. So Aju, what was your doubt? Can you clear it? So any scarring, Shrishta, I think I was clear with your doubt. Divya have asked me in bromhidrosis. What was the doubt? I'm sorry. What was the doubt of Divya? In bromhidrosis, why steroid production? It is a sweat gland disease. So see, in bromhidrosis, what happens? We have discussed that there is sweat secretion. There is secretion of the sweat gland, that is the apocrine secretion. But what happens in this secretion of the sweat glands? We have few steroidal products. In the presence of the bacteria, that is the Corynebacterium, these sweat or the steroids present in the sweat secretions, there is conversion of this steroid, and hence there is production of the steroids leading to the formation of the bad odor. So I hope I'm clear with the Divya's doubt also. Please give me a thumbs up. Divya, am I clear to you? Please give me a thumbs up. Okay, so I hope I could clear everybody's doubt. Okay, so this was the last disorder, that is the apocrine gland, that is the hidradenitis suppurativa. Now please have a look over this blue picture. Now we have some modified apocrine glands, and these are the Moll's gland in the eyelid and the cerumean glands in the external auditory canal. So this is important because you can get this in your exam, that the Moll gland are the modified sweat gland, sebaceous gland, like that. Okay, so here it is the Moll's, that is the eyelid, and the cerumean gland. The mammary gland, I will tell you, Annapurna, just wait for a time. Okay. So now please answer this question. I want all of you to please answer this question. So this is a question from PGI. So I want all of you to please answer this question in the chat section. Okay, so is the voice clear to other students or it is not clear to all of them? Neha has written that my voice is not clear. Is it clear to other students or it is not clear to others also? Okay, so please, Neha, I think there is a problem at your end. Please recheck your internet speed. It is clear for other students, okay? So I'm not starting the poll because I have two correct options here. Fox Fordyce disease, it is true here. So we have more than one options which is correct. So please read the question carefully. Common in adult women. Bullous lesions are common in the areola as well as axilla and associated with other malignancy. So yes, you all are right. The correct option is option number 1 as well as option number 3. So I hope this is clear to each and everybody. Okay. Okay, so this is a PGI question. So we have two options correct. It is seen in adult female as we have discussed. The next is bullous lesion. No, we have just now discussed that it will have this type of follicular papules mainly over the axilla, areola as well as groin, and seen in the young or the adult females. Okay, and it is never associated with malignancy. So option number 4 was not correct. Okay, so this is not correct. So am I visible to you? Am I visible to all of you? Please let me know. Okay, so I'm very sorry because of the internet. I had to stop my class. Can you all see me now? Okay, so I think I'll stop my class today because at my end there is no internet speed and light. So I'll stop my class and I hope you have liked my today's class.